Come on back into another episode of Game Runs Deep. I'm Sudu. He's Ben. And what an insane Week 8 of college football. Benny, some upsets we didn't see coming. Some games that turned out different from what we expected. 9 ranked teams fell in Week 8 of college football. In Week 9, we've got a great slate coming up. But first of all, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, brother. How are you? It's a good day to have a good day. We are blessed, too blessed to be stressed, more blessed than we deserve. I'm excited to be here after a crazy Week 8. All the talk is about Lane Kiffin right now and the coaching carousel, but there were actually some games on the field that I think will go a long way in determining what happens down the road, including for Ole Miss. Nothing really changing as far as their playoff. Their playoff projection or potential after the loss to Georgia, even though the line is already moving early. A lot of money going toward Oklahoma started at plus 3.5 for Ole Miss. Now it's already been betted up to plus 4.5. A tricky game this weekend. But yeah, man, what a weekend of college football. Billy Napier is no longer the head coach of Florida despite a win. I mean, it's college football perfectly encapsulated in one basic story, man. Like the guy gets a dub, and then on Sunday he doesn't have a job. James Franklin was one play away from making a national championship game in 24 months, or he's fired. It's crazy how the things work these days, man. And that's why we sit here today on Game Runs Deep and say we too blessed to be stressed, Sudu.
We certainly are, man. We certainly are. But listen, even if you get fired in college football, man, it's not a bad gig. $20 million.
Best gig there is.
To $50 million buyouts, no doubt about it. But
we did be Jimbo Fisher, and you get to have a $70 million buyout and get paid not to work. I don't understand why coaches like James Franklin goes on game day and says, "Well, we'll just try to win a national championship the next place." Dude, you have $60 million in the bank.
It's the love of the game, Ben.
Well, really, it's because he's got to show that he really that he's going for other jobs because there's like some weird stipulation language.
Yeah, he's got to. Yep.
He's got to act like he's going for it. So act like you are, and then take the SEC Network job and live on your millions, and the rest of the time go hang out in Cabo.
Well, he's got what? I think it's $8 million a year, and he has to attempt to make that amount. And if whatever he makes, Penn State's supposed to pay the difference. If I'm him, man, I'm getting something very minimal, man. I'm getting paid next to nothing. Maybe get paid $1 or something, and then try to get the rest from old Penn State there. But,
yeah, I got offered $8 million at Arkansas, but 3.2 to be an SEC Network analyst. So y'all are gonna have to pay the $5 million difference. Yeah, I mean,
hell yeah.
There are many ways to skin these cats, and I think James Franklin is quite aware of that because while those corporate interviews on game day these days seem very hollow and terribly inauthentic, I think it's true that he is pursuing jobs at least until he can sit on the buyout, because there's no better place to be as a coach, as an earner in America, than to be a coach that has a massive buyout that gets fired, right?
Yeah.
And being able to, I'll never understand why anybody just doesn't cry into their millions of dollars. Oh no, I went 9-3 instead of 10-2. Your legacy is secure. Go enjoy life.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's but obviously, these are competitors, and obviously they want, it'd be like our careers, right? Like I feel like, look, let's say you or me, maybe you're a little different than me because you're a little more seasoned and have a better outlook on life, and work isn't as important to you as maybe it used to be. But I'm still in that naive stage of like work hard and love what you do type of thing, right? But if tomorrow I got
true. I love what I do more than I ever have before, especially after what happened a couple weeks ago. I mean, the community that has embraced me that I took for granted, they rallied, and I'm so thankful to them, and I love what I do. It's just different because I've
you
seen
have a
what
family,
happens.
And you have it's a little different than me single Sudu.
It's different than getting 60 million not to work. Ben, if he lost his job and his media job, he would just go get behind a pulpit somewhere, and that would be the only place where he doesn't say bad words.
See,
you know what I mean?
You tell me, I'm getting a $60 million buyout. You know what I would do? I would probably blow a little bit of that, have a good time for about 6 months. Then I would take that money and then just do something in media with it. I can't think of not doing this. And so I can sort of understand as a coach and as a competitor, you think about your legacy, you think about what keeps you going, what wakes you up in the morning. And if it is coaching, like Ed Orgeron, right? Ed Orgeron was like, I'm out, And so you do see an Edo every now and then where he's like.
And now he's already on the, is it Oklahoma State or Oregon State hot board, like O's talking about getting back in. But my whole thing is just like, at the end of the day, as you get older, what do you value? And for
Time.
me, like time is the most, like, spend it fellowshipping with Sudu on game runs deep, hanging out with my peoples, being with my peoples. And if I ever got paid like that, buddy, we all eating. I'm just letting you know. Sudu's getting $1 million. You know, anybody that's listening to this that tells me my hair looks pretty says they get $1 million. You know, I mean, like, I'll be oversharing. I just want to pay off the note on my house, bro. Like, I'm not trying to get out there and be the next Dan Patrick. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to do my thing and get my debt done. I'll never understand it, man. If you can live a life, if God blesses you in that way, I would be doing whatever brings me the most joy. And for me, in my 40-year-old season, that is being with my wife and children and hanging out with my guy Sue after a great week 8 in college football.
No doubt about it. And let's start with one of the biggest matchups of the weekend. Number 5, Ole Miss. Number 9, Georgia in Athens. And this is brought to you by B&A Bank. Ben, give us the spiel on B&A Bank.
My hometown bank, good people, man. They here in New Albany, Mississippi. I'm in the Riverland Roofing New Albany branch of the studios. It just means I'm sitting in my home office wearing my Riverland hat. 662-644-4297, riverlandroofing.com. But B&A Bank, it's my hometown bank, Bank of New Albany, but it's got multiple branches in New Albany and Tupelo. Emphasizes community involvement. You should contact them today, 662-534-8171. That's 662-534-8171 for all your banking needs. They'll take care of you, and I mean that because these are my people. I know them on a first-name basis. Like, I grew up with a lot of them, right? Like, the guy who did my mortgage, Whit Spencer, is, you know, he lives a door down from me. So I value community. I value people I can trust. I value loyalty. And few, if any, have been more loyal to me in my professional life or even in my personal life growing up than B&A Bank. The president of the Dead Gum Bank is Mike Staten. I've known Mike Staten my entire life. You know, he's the guy that you see at McAllister's goes, "Hey, Ben, how's it going?" And we talk about things. You know what I mean? These are my people. So, man, I'm so thankful that you allowed me an opportunity to bring it up because it's true. As you get older, you pour into those that pour into you, and people that have poured into me include B&A Bank. I'm so thankful for them.
No doubt. And obviously, you know, there's just something different. Like, if you are in the North Mississippi area, obviously, like, they sponsor, you know, segments on our show, obviously, but it is nice to have a bank that feels like a community and not, I got to get on the phone and wait and, you know, I can't get a hold of a representative or whatever. So check out B&A Bank.
You call 662-534-8171. Somebody's answering the phone going, "Hey, how are you doing? It's B&A Bank." And I'm like, that's my people's, dude. Yeah. Like, there's nothing worse than I want to contest a charge that I just showed up on my in my app. You know what I mean? All I'm getting is an automatic line. You know what I mean?
We'll contact you in 5 to 7 business days, and you're waiting for $800 or whatever it was taken. So obviously, just a huge shout out to them for supporting the show. But let's talk about the Rebs, Ben. We obviously did a post game podcast, your Talk of Champions drive home. And I think I was very much still in the heat of the moment and did not hold back on how I felt about the Ole Miss defense and the piss poor display from them. But one thing that I think I want to continue to hammer on is I don't put that one on Pete Golding. And I don't know if you feel the same way I do. I've seen a lot of comments on social media about,
I don't.
You know, Pete let them down and all this kind of stuff. I think it's a talent issue for the Ole Miss defense. I don't know if it was scheme. I just don't think the talent is there. But after kind of digesting it for the last couple of days, where are you at right now on that display from the Ole Miss defense? And is there any hope at all? Because Saturday night, I did not think there was any hope for the rest of the season to be able to count on this defense. What are you seeing from your end on that?
Well, I felt the same way after Arkansas, but that was only 2 quarters. This was 4 quarters of ineptitude. But when you really break it down, Ole Miss was 1 4th down stop away from really burying Georgia. I mean, you're up 9, fourth and 1. You have the running back stopped, and then you let him continue to turn his legs, and he rolls out for 2 yards, and the drive keeps going. They scored a touchdown 7 plays later, and after that, I mean, and capped the game with 17 unanswered points to win 43-35. If you're Ole Miss, 35 points and going 5 for 5 for touchdowns and drives, that's usually enough. That should be enough against pretty much anyone. So I do agree it is a talent issue, but Pete Golding certainly shoulders a lot of blame as well for certain utilizations like a Suntarine Perkins, who just has not been who he was last year when he tied for the team leading sacks. A lot of that has to do with playing him in what will be his next level position, more of a will linebacker type of spot, and he's doing more coverages. Finally was rushing the passer a little bit more, especially in the second half in Athens, but not making the impact that you necessarily need. It is a talent issue, but that also falls on Pete. These were guys that he chose. I mean, Ole Miss has and this is the thing that really drives me crazy about the whole Florida discussion, right? It's like we're trying to erase what happened last year with Ole Miss in Georgia. Ole Miss dominated that game. It was 28-10. They had on that defense some legitimate dudes, all of which are making impacts in the NFL now, including Trey Amos at cornerback, an All-American starting for the Commanders. That kid is as good as it comes at cornerback. Walter Nolan, J.J. Pegues, Jared Ivey, Princely Umanmielen, who's getting sacks for the Carolina Panthers as a third-round pick. Chris Poopaw, who nearly came back, and yet he didn't come back because he thought it was his time to go pro. And now you're like, man, if they'd have just had him, right? If they just had, that what a difference he would make. And you're replacing all but, I think, 2 starters on defense, T.J. Daugherty and Xavier Harris, or Suntarine Perkins, excuse me. So all but 2 starters on defense. There was going to be a drop-off from the historic nature of what last year's group did, which was set new single-season records for tackles for loss and sacks. But Pete went on, a fireside chat with Chris Beard, Ole Miss men's basketball coach, and said, I don't expect any drop-off. And there's a lot to love about what Ole Miss could be or will be in time, but these guys are growing together. William Eccles is emerging as an All-SEC caliber player. Cam Franklin is emerging as an All-SEC caliber player. Both guys handpicked in many ways by Pete Golding, but also he handpicked Sage Ryan from LSU, Deshaun Womack from LSU, and Ole Miss has money, as much money, more money than even Florida right now, because while everyone else is saying, well, just give Lane Kiffin Florida resources and he doesn't have to pick between offense and defense like he had to against Saturday. What happened last year? They didn't have to pick different or like to choose offense and sacrifice defense. They just missed on evaluation. Sage Ryan was a missed evaluation. And if he's a top 10 NIL earner for you at Ole Miss, you're not getting the return on that. That doesn't mean they couldn't have gone and paid more and gotten A.J. Halsey. They could have. They just decided, well, we think for the money that Sage Ryan is more in line with A.J. Halsey than otherwise. Why would we spend millions and when we can pay this for Sage Ryan? Well, it turns out that's a misevaluation, right? So that's where I'm not blaming necessarily the schematics of it, because schematics are schematics, all right? There's only so much you can really do in a football game to, quote, make adjustments. Now, Georgia did. Kirby Smart's the best in the business at it. He completely eliminated the ability for Trinidad Chambliss to run, or eliminated it as best as he could in the second half, and Ole Miss wasn't the same offense, and that's what we said they had to be, because those are the type of quarterbacks that give Kirby Smart fits. But as far as Ole Miss is concerned, man, the schematics didn't change. This is the same schematics that had you believing that Ole Miss had figured something out, turned a corner defensively with the win over LSU. But what does that even mean after they lose to Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
They're just a bad football team.
LSU was not a great football team to begin with.
No.
I saw that early in the season.
You did. You called that. I mean, not a good football team. Washington State, there were bust plays. I said that on Game Run Steep last week. I mean, if you really wanted to be concerned, that secondary, guys are wide open.
Yeah.
These are wide open busts. And that showed up against Georgia. So it's a personnel thing, yes, but who's responsible for that personnel? And if you're a person out there or a national media type that really wants to get on board with the Lane Kiffin being the spiritual replacement of Steve Spurrier at Florida, you're not telling the full scope of the story. Last year, Ole Miss had everything, defense and all those things, and absolutely dominated.
Everything but a running back.
Sure. And they lost 3 games.
Yep.
They lost 3 games. This year, some misevaluations on defense. They finally came back to roost against a team that we said could really beat you up if you don't clean up the things that stuck out like red flags in Washington State, including blown misassignments in the secondary, and that's exactly what showed up. And now Lane Kiffin is 1-10 versus AP Top 25 teams in true road games at Ole Miss. He had the 3rd most NFL draft selections in college football last season and an historic Ole Miss defense and missed the playoffs. that's an underachievement by the only metric that matters, wins and losses. So the idea that Florida offers something that Ole Miss doesn't is complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah.
In 2025, it's complete and utter nonsense. Up until about 2010, sure. But then the explosion of the parity era and the NIL and freedom of movement and the money era of college football, it's unfettered capitalism. And Ole Miss has as much as it needs to have. They say, well, you don't have what we got. Well, they only need a couple billionaires, and they got them. As last year's failures in going 9-3 and missing the playoffs, which was a failure for Lane Kiffin and company, with that roster, and Jackson Darte's tearing it up with the New York Giants, to go 9-3, that's a missed opportunity. To play in the Gator Bowl, that's a missed opportunity. A lot of it had to do with it falls on the shoulders of Lane Kiffin and staff for the running back issues, right? Yeah. For not adequately replacing Quinshon Judkins. And this year, where the offense let you down last year, the defense is letting you down this year. And it turns out that the evaluations across the board, replacing all but 2 starters, Sage Ryan replacing Trey Washington, whoever it might be, they're not as good as those guys. And they're not making the same kind of plays as those guys. And It turns out it's a lot harder to replace, and there will be some drop-off. Unfortunately, it's taken now 7 games to really get bit. How are you going to adjust? And that falls on Pete Golding, the highest-paid coordinator in the SEC. So, of course, he has to shoulder some blame.
I totally agree.
And also, if you're a Florida fan, Ole Miss pays more for its head coach. Ole Miss has the highest paid coordinator in Pete Golding. Its coaching staff is top in the SEC in terms of overall compensation. Meanwhile, you're about to pay $21 million to Billy Napier that you can't get out of, on top of $12 million to get Lane, plus whatever it's going to cost to get your staff. Y'all just are thinking about this through a broken lens that doesn't friggin' exist anymore.
That's my thing. That's my biggest frustration with college fans. Like, listen, if you're saying that Florida is a better program historically than Ole Miss, you're 100% right. No one should be arguing with you.
No one is arguing that.
But you need to look at college football in a completely different lens, as you're talking about. This isn't college football from even 3 years ago.
Preach.
It's a completely different product. It's a completely different game. And the best example, man, the best example right now is Curt Cignetti. The fact that Indiana is paying this man everything to keep him. A few years ago, as much as Curt Cignetti is loyal and just isn't one of these bag-chasing coaches, I 100% think Penn State would have lured him away. No doubt about it. Mm-hmm. But in this modern college football system...
They had to give him a deal. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. They would have given him a deal that he could not refuse.
Exactly.
Those don't exist anymore.
And that's my thing with Florida people. You know, it's always like better resources, better program, facilities. Facilities don't matter anymore, folks. Nope. Don't talk about facilities. Look at Oklahoma State. I was talking to an Oklahoma State friend of mine who was telling me, hey, yeah, I was like, oh, you guys got all that T. Boone Pickens money, right? Why can't you do more NIL? Well, we spent all this money on facilities right before the NIL boom. And now it's all tied up and it's all weird. It doesn't matter. Right. The players don't need the lounges anymore. They got their own money. They'll go lounge in their Lamborghini in the parking lot. It's not the same. So if you're a Florida fan, you're looking at Ole Miss from the old lens. Listen, I get it. You're still a bigger school. You have a higher enrollment rate. You probably have more money. But is your entire fan base, are all of your boosters all in and on the same page like Ole Miss is? No. And that's what I've been saying on this podcast week in and week out. Ole Miss has a lot of wealthy people, guys. We're talking about a small state in Mississippi, right? There's not a lot of people, and that is the flagship institution. A lot of people go to that school, and when they go make their money, what is their interest? What is the interest of most people in the state of Mississippi that go to that school, or even out of state that go to that school? It's Ole Miss athletics, because that's really the end-all, be-all. There's not a lot going on in the state of Mississippi, and that's my home state. I'm not making fun of it, but I'm just saying it is Ole Miss football. And so that's where they put their money in, and it's a social thing, too. Think about it. Ole Miss sports is a very social thing. You want to be in the Grove with the big tailgate. You want to be courtside at basketball games. You want to be on the sideline before the games. It carries a social currency, and that's not the case at every single school, man. It's just not. And even if you're Florida, I know athletics is big at Florida, but your alumni, there's so many alums from Florida that could give two shits about athletics at that school. That's not the case at Ole Miss. That is why Ole Miss fans are adamant about this isn't the old days anymore, because we can now use our money legally. Without a punishment from the NCAA or some higher body. And that
When
is why
everybody else was doing it, but it didn't
Right.
matter because you were little Ole Miss.
Exactly. And you could get punished and you could be used as the example because you just didn't have the same quote unquote pull or maybe, connections at the top. And we all know how corrupt the NCAA system was in the past, and I'm sure it continuously is. But that's my point, is like people think that Ole Miss is saying we're a bigger and better school than Florida. Nobody is saying
No one's
that.
saying that.
Florida probably makes more money. They got more admissions. Gainesville's a bigger town. Like, all those things are true, but college sports has completely changed to where those advantages don't matter anymore. Are all of your boosters, your big money people, on the same page, and are they willing to spend their money on that product? And at Oxford, Mississippi, they are.
They are. And I'm glad you brought it up, man. Lane Kiffin for Ole Miss is a walking economy. Everything that Lane Kiffin brings as far as national media exposure and just like the local economy, when like Lane Kiffin has brought a boom to Oxford, but being the walking economy that he is, that is more muted at Florida, because at Florida you're just another coach. Now, Ole Miss is already actively negotiating with him. I asked Lane specifically about that last night when local media. I was the only one that asked any questions. This 10-minute call was bizarre. But one of the things I asked was, Keith Carter told us at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and Food of On 3, sign up today for just $1. omspirit.com, on $1. Keith Carter said last week to us, Ole Miss athletics director, that they're being proactive in trying to get a new deal done with Lane Kiffin. So I asked him that question because Keith even cited Kurt Cignetti's recent new extension with Indiana that came 3 days after James Franklin was fired. Right? Everyone thinks it just happened immediately. He came out and said, "Oh yeah, I'm staying." Well, it took a couple of days. They were negotiating. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Lane Kiffin, but that's what Ole Miss would like. That's what they're trying to do with him. I said, "What is the status of those talks from your end? Would you like to get something done?" And Lane didn't really answer.
Yeah, Keith Carter said last week the university's being proactive and trying to get you a new deal done. He even cited Kurt Cignetti's recent extension at Indiana. What's kind of the status of those talks from your end, and would you like to get something done?
Yeah, I don't comment on these other jobs or ongoing things in season. That's awesome that Keith said those things, and I don't take that for granted. Extremely appreciative of how everyone's been here, Keith, the chancellor, everybody. So flattered that that would even be being discussed halfway through the season. But I don't deal with that. We've got a lot to do, obviously, with another top 15 matchup and back-to-back road games. So I don't get – you guys have done this for years with me. So I think it just speaks a lot to our – that we're mentioning these other things a lot to where our programs come and our players and our coaches, and really take those things as a compliment. And so they're here again, I guess, and we got to stay focused and worry about this season.
Yeah, you brought it up. I mean, you've been through this pretty much yearly here at Ole Miss. You're no stranger to it or anything. So how do you learn from past instances, right? Like maybe specifically 2022 that you could possibly apply now to avoid it being a potential distraction for the team? How do you handle that end of it?
We don't really talk about it. I know that that's your guys' job to bring up and all that. We just we don't really talk about it. Like if you were around her, you wouldn't know any different of anything. And we stay in the work, stay in the moment, stay in the day, and and really that stuff has nothing to do with what we're doing. So again, except to me, just I think it's a compliment to the amount of games we've been able to win here.
There was no reassurances there, but that's how he's always handled these things at Ole Miss. I don't read anything into him. You have to ask the question because it's the most pertinent question that people won't ask to the head coach of Ole Miss right now. However, Lane has handled all of this as consistently as anything else, probably most consistently than anything else at Ole Miss is the coaching rumor stuff that has been every single year, and he was thankful for all those things. But if you really look at and break down what the differences are, you're thinking, maybe you're going to give $2 more million? Ole Miss is already going to try to get him up to 12. Jimmy Sexton is trying to make him the highest paid college football coach in America. And folks, he might get that number regardless. Ole Miss knows it's going to have to go to 11.9, 12, and it can. Now, can you do that in Florida? Yeah, of course you can. But it's also you're paying $21 million in a buyout to Billy Napier, you were paying $7 million annually while Lane was making $9 million. Ole Miss is top 10 for Kiffin assistants, including Pete Golding, like I said, the highest paid coordinator in the SEC. Only Alabama and Georgia have won more games among SEC teams the last 5 years than Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin. And you're telling me that you got more to offer? You need to look hard in the mirror. Yes, historically you do. Of course you do. No one's denying that. But in the year of our Lord 2025, you're really going to have to bring it. And I know that you're going to try. And some of you are
I
really,
think both Ben and I agree. Like, Lane could 100% leave. Like, we are not saying that is not in the realm of possibility. What we are saying is stop trying to say that, well, he's not going to stay at Ole Miss because they're Ole Miss. It just doesn't make sense. You're not paying attention to college sports.
You're not.
That lets me know you are not a ball knower in this modern era of college football.
You're on your fifth coach since Urban Meyer stepped down.
And if you feel insulted by that, you're one of those people that does not understand modern college football. I don't laugh at any program anymore. I don't laugh at Georgia Tech. I don't laugh at Tulane. I don't laugh at Memphis. I don't laugh at anybody because any given year, some booster could say, you know what, screw it. I'm dropping in $20 million. And what if FedEx, let's say Memphis, right? They decide, you know what? And they've committed a lot of money to the University of Memphis, but it's truly not a lot compared to some of the other programs. But what if Memphis decides one year, we're going to spend $20 million for our football program, or it's more likely they do it for basketball. For basketball, it's possible. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. BYU did that. They got the number one player in the country, right? Because of that in basketball. Like, anybody can do it, guys. So stop comparing programs in the old sense, that old model of history and tradition and facilities. And we've got 7 national titles. Who gives a shit? These kids want to get paid. Mm-hmm. They want to get paid.
And they want to win now. And, buddy, your roster don't look too hot right now. At the end of the day, if you made me guess, Kiffin signs an extension with Ole Miss to briefly become the highest paid coach in college football.
Briefly being the key word. And watch in just a couple years, because then Kirby Smart's going to get a bump, and Ryan Day's going to get a bump, and Steve Sarkisian might get a bump, and then Lane's going to be like the 5th or 6th highest paid coach. It's going to keep going up because the money's there.
And that's the cost of doing business. This is the Lane Kiffin tax if you're Ole Miss. I mean, you have to go through this every single year. But in every single situation, be it Auburn and LSU. If LSU comes open, that'll become even more interesting because they'll come after Lane too. Florida will too. But I find it very hard to believe that Brian Kelly, I think Brian Kelly to Penn State could happen, but man, and after losing to Vanderbilt, the Brian Kelly tenure for all intents and purposes at LSU is over. Like, there's no recovering from it. But from a purely financial perspective, man, I think it's $60 million or something to get rid of him, so it's going to be dang near impossible. But if it does come open, it gets even more serious. But I think if you made me guess, he signs an extension as Lane Kiffin with Ole Miss to briefly become the highest paid coach in college football, because that is the goal for Jimmy Sexton, his agent, who was walking out there with them.
You want to talk about the most powerful man in the sport? It's that man right there. James
but
Sexton.
The average annual value will never be a problem for Ole Miss. They'll keep matching it. Neither will contract length. Yes, like state law in Mississippi only permits 4-year contracts, but Ole Miss, as does every university, get out on as many years as they want to through their athletics foundation. So I think that's what's going to happen. But it's going to probably get 2022 levels of uncomfortable. Just like the Auburn stuff. And that's why I asked the questions to Lane last night, because I even cited 2022 because I give him a chance to maybe not allow what happened.
That, by the way, I just want to brag on my friend. I love that you asked that question. I mean,
thanks, man.
The Ole Miss beat we certainly have some real journalists on that beat, but oftentimes people are passive, and obviously it's a small town and you don't want to be on the wrong end of the athletics department. So a lot of people are scared to ask certain questions, and I thought that was, and you asked it in a great manner, obviously, and Lane gave you the typical Lane answer,
which is totally cool. But you give him an opportunity to give the answer, because in that 2022 year, when all this Auburn stuff popped up, this feels a lot like when they went to, was it Arkansas?
LSU, where they were undefeated and got absolutely boat raced in Baton Rouge. Yep.
And you lost 4 of your last 5 games. I'm not saying that's on what's going to happen to this Ole Miss
Arkansas
team.
was followed, I believe, though, because Arkansas was the one where they just ran it on Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I think, and that's what I'm getting at here. It's like, I'm not saying that's going to happen for this team, but in an era where anybody can beat anybody every single Saturday, the vibes just aren't what they need to be, regardless if Lane stays or not. So that's why I was giving him an opportunity to maybe change that conversation. Say, hey, look, man, my reps are working with Ole Miss, and I'm so thankful to Keith, and we're just about ball right now, man. Because like we're keeping the main thing. He didn't go that way, and that's okay. But like that's now something you got to pay attention to, because I do think it's going to become that uncomfortable. Do I think he's going to leave to go to Florida? I don't. Do I think he leaves to go to LSU? I don't. But that's because I've got 6 years of going through this every single year to say so. And I know what Ole Miss, like, there's not going to be any limitations to Ole Miss. Like, you can't outbid them.
It's not really smart for a coach to say.
Of course not. He's got all the leverage in the world.
Right. Because one, you want to get paid more. But two, in the future, if you are considering leaving, people can go, well, remember last time you committed, this time you haven't. So it's always smart. And I'm sure Jimmy Sexton tells this to all his clients. It's like, don't give any indication of which way you're leaning. Say you're focused. Now, the one guy that I did hear recently, which as much as I've hated Dan Mullen when he was at Mississippi State because of how he literally tried to ruin
Dan Mullen.
He tried to ruin kids' careers. Let's be real. The whole Leo Lewis situation.
He's such a tool bag, but he's an undeniably hilarious.
He is funny. Once he got on the SEC network, and now that he's at UNLV, I'm a huge Dan Mullen fan again. And
Leo Lewis.
It's just the fact that he put that kid in legal trouble just over, a rivalry was insane.
Petty bullcrap.
But, him saying, I'm not going nowhere. I'm staying at UNLV. You guys should look into Gus Malzahn. I love that. And because you know why? Dan Mullen doesn't want to recruit. He's never liked to recruit. At UNLV, the pressure's low. He's winning games out there. He's able to, he's a hell of a coach, obviously. He can use the transfer portal to get guys as he has through the portal. And he'll have UNLV playing well. I think there's going to have to be a pretty huge offer for Dan Mullen at this point of his career.
That's the thing, like UNLV, that's that casino money, man. If they want to pay $7 million, $9 million, whatever, because that's about what Arkansas would be able to pay Dan Mullen to come there, they can do that. So if you're Dan Mullen, why would And
the pressure, Ben, the pressure's not there.
Totally different.
He hates to recruit, and if you come back to the SEC, you got to recruit your ass off. And out there, his name alone will get some kids to UNLV that are in that UNLV range, and then the rest can come through the portal. So it's just
he
different.
Just waits for the one he really wants.
Exactly.
State. But even then, UNLV, if they say, well, we really want to keep you, well, you got to pay us $12 million. Pay me $12 million. They can now. The old days of, well, I got an offer that I just can't refuse. Those days are over. So stop looking at it through a regressive lens, people. Like,
no doubt.
It is. Well, how would I classify it right now? It's not a coin flip. I think he's fair. Like, I think not the overwhelming, but at least the most likeliest ending outcome here is he signs an extension with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But is the Florida stuff? Of course it's real, because he's always the most popular coaching candidate every year, and he's never been more popular than he is right now. But like Brett McMurphy coming out and saying that was a significant result in Athens, winky emoji, if you know, you know. What are we doing? What are we doing? That's not even reporting. That's just entertainment news bull crap. You had everybody coming out going, well, all Florida's ever wanted was a coach who talks crap and wears a visor. And they're like, Lane Kiffin. It makes for great content. It really does. But if y'all think
Eli drink what wears a visor and talks bull crap too. I know he's not as entertaining as Lane Kiffin. He comes off kind of corny, but he's also.
Florida, if you were able to come out with Lane Kiffin, of course, that'd be a great hire. But you're going to have to bring it, like we've laid out multiple times. I'm tired of even talking about it because it's like a non-issue right now. Lane made it a point that it was a non-issue last night. When for him, it's business as usual. You can say, well, they're negotiating behind closed doors. Of course they are. All of them are. Florida's trying to get Lane, and Ole Miss is trying to keep Lane. And in every other time that somebody's come up and swung big to come get Lane, even with Chris Beard in Texas A&M, in the old days, it wouldn't have been a thought that Chris Beard would have left Ole Miss
think about it, Ben.
for Texas A&M.
Let me jump in here, because you brought up a great point. When Lane Kiffin took the job at Ole Miss, 2019, right? 2020, going into the 2020 season, and Chris Beard took the Ole Miss job maybe a year or whatever later. Think of how much college athletics has changed just since then. Because when both guys came to Ole Miss, everybody said, oh, Lane will probably be here 3 whatever years, but that's fine. We just want to get out of the Matt Luke era. We just want someone to bring us back to the top, and then he'll go, and that was the expectation. Same with Chris Beard. He's only here because he got in trouble. He'll make Ole Miss relevant, and then he'll leave. And both guys have been approached by bigger programs, traditionally more powerful programs with more resources and money, and both coaches have stayed. That alone should just tell you right there how college athletics has changed just from when they were hired. It's a night and day difference.
It's a complete difference, and that's why if y'all want to keep having these fights online and keep stroking your own egos, that's fine. If Lane goes, like, is it a possibility that Lane leaves Ole Miss for Florida? Of course it is.
No doubt.
Of course it is.
He could
just
100%
like it was,
do it.
It always is. Like all of the he's not doing the Dan Lanning where he's coming out and saying, "I know what I want. This is my job." He's about the leverage, and he's about he's a walking economy, and that walking economy at Ole Miss is a lot different than at Florida. And the uniformity here, not to mention the family connections as well. Yes, his ex-wife who now lives in Oxford, who moved here from California. Yes, she's a Florida alum. Yes, her dad is a Florida legend. But also, Knox just won the game in overtime for Oxford High on Friday night. Landry goes to Ole Miss. Chris Kiffin and his entire family is here. Cookie inherited the fire extinguisher celebration from Knox. Like it's just different. And if you're willing to give him that, more power to you. I think Ole Miss, regardless, is in a better place than it's ever been before. I think Pete Golding's potential candidacy to replace Lane Kiffin took an irreparable hit Saturday against Georgia. But if the worst outcome for Ole Miss is that Lane goes to Florida and they hire John Summerall, they're going to be fine. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Lane's going to sign an extension with Ole Miss. And I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, okay, yell at me on social media. I told you so. See, you stupid rebel black beer sharks. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Well, we both
y'all are non-ball knowers, like Sudu said.
That is within the realm. Nope, neither Ben or I are saying he's staying. Damn it, there's no. We're not saying that. We're just saying the argument you are using for him to leave is invalid. Come up with a better one, other than resources and all this shit. It doesn't matter. All right, let's put that to bed, Ben, because the other team, the other side that played Ole Miss. Might have a Heisman candidate quarterback. Gunnar Stockton quietly has been putting together. Don't do this. You do this every time I bring up Georgia, and you try to pin it on me having covered them, but you got to give credit where credit is due.
I do.
He's got 10 passing, 7 rushing touchdowns, 1 interception. He made Ole Miss's defense look freaking silly. You know how many missed opportunities he had? I went back and watched that game. There were more opportunities that Gunnar Stockton didn't even see. It could have been a lot worse.
Sure.
And just the fact that, they lose to Alabama in the close game. Georgia is just, I've said it for years now, they're just inevitable, man. And it starts from a culture standpoint at that program. But after watching them now, I guess for the first time this season, you got to watch every single snap that Georgia played. Obviously, the defense has a lot of questions. We knew coming into that game, I told you, the only good part of their defense is the linebacking core. And that's why you saw Keywan Lacey struggle to run the ball. Despite him running hard and making opportunistic plays, he wasn't running crazy because of how elite that linebacking core is. But I thought their defensive line grew up a little bit, especially late in that game, batting the Trinidad pass. They brought pressure, which was what we talked about with DJ Shockley last week that Georgia wasn't able to do. Late in the game, they were able to adjust and do that. But what did you think just as Georgia as a playoff contender, and where do you kind of see them falling in the national kind of landscape? They're now 5th, obviously taking Ole Miss's spot in the rankings.
Well, Ole Miss fell just 3 spots. I mean, I think they're all together in this barrel of good enough, right? I don't think there are any elite teams. Georgia's now making the case. So, we can be the one that's playing the best ball at the right time. But defensively, they have some real issues too now. I mean, defensively, I was shocked by the passivity of Georgia, by the lack of dynamicism of Georgia. I'm just not used to seeing that. And you're right. I told you.
Those defensive backs have been struggling for the last 2 years. And because you have 2 former 5-stars kind of taking bigger roles, and you have the SEC championship MVP in Dalen Everett, who Dejon Stribling, by the way, made look absolutely silly, right? And you thought, okay, maybe they'll take the next step, and they haven't. And their defensive line, with all the talent that they've had, has not taken the next step. The only thing that they have is those really athletic linebackers that could just fly to the football, and they ended up being the difference makers in that game. But, yeah, man, it's not the same Georgia defense as before. The talent is there, and then you even have to wonder, I know Georgia fans are pinning it on Glenn Schumann, their defensive coordinator, who at one point was the hottest coaching candidate and still might be, but maybe the scheme has gotten, stale for them because the talent level that they had in the past isn't the same. But it's bad, Ben, and it's honestly been that way for the last 2 years. A year ago,
100%.
maybe they were a little bit better. They've been having trouble getting to the quarterback really for the last 3 years, but they had a Jalen Walker or a Mykel Williams that could kind of pass rush and get some of those sacks. But this year's probably the worst I've seen since those national championship. I mean, like you'd have to go before the national championship runs to think about a Georgia defense that looks this bad.
And it's not Glenn Schulman's fault. He's still every bit the coordinator he's always been. What has been the theme of this edition of Game Runs Deep, powered by Riverland Roofing, B&A Bank, Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group? Everybody is about the same. There are flaws and warts for every single team. And for Georgia, that includes a defense that is not as dynamic, that isn't the Kirby Smart scary bring the boom defense that you're used to seeing. And that's okay, because what they have is an ascending quarterback who didn't really look all that special. And I still don't look at Georgia as like particularly special. Like they could just as easily lose to whoever they have left in the SEC. Right? Look at Texas A&M. Everyone loves Texas A&M right now. The last undefeated team in the SEC beat Arkansas 45-42 last week. They're number 3 in the country. Do you really buy Texas A&M any more than Georgia or Ole Miss? Or no? Right now, you're not really high on Ole Miss. Because that
what's funny about A&M? I know you didn't. I gave them some roses last week, and you were like, I just can't yet. And I mean, look at that. I mean, Taylon Green almost beat them, right? Like Bobby Petrino, still Bobby Petrino, I guess. But I'll tell you this: if you put Texas A&M against Georgia, I would still take the culture that Georgia has over Texas A&M. Yeah. And to me, like that's where in this era of parity, I think culture matters. Like, because everyone's pretty much level, right? Like, Georgia may be really good at one thing, but then there's going to be a deficiency somewhere else. Look at what happened to them. I mean, they used to stockpile talent. One of their best pass rushers went to Missouri for more money, Damon Wilson. He's got like 6 or 7 sacks this season. Imagine if Georgia still had him. You can't keep those guys anymore because of the transfer portal. So you have a deficiency somewhere. So each team will be able to match you. You may have an advantage somewhere, but they might have an advantage on another end because of this new era. And I think what wins out now? I think culture wins out. I think the toughness that you practice with, the day-to-day in the building, the mentality that you have, that's what I think, going back to Ole Miss, is that Ole Miss defense is missing. They're passive. They play soft. And I think with Georgia, they showed that for most of the game, but when it mattered, that those bloody Tuesdays, they call them, they're intense practices that's like super famous now, that's where that comes in. And the culture of your program comes in. And I really think, like, if you talk about the playoffs and, you talk about a Georgia versus a Texas A&M or something, I think a team like Georgia would win because of their culture, because you're right. I mean, we talked about Texas A&M's defense being amazing, and they gave up 42 points to Arkansas.
Yep.
So it's just different on a week-to-week basis.
Green, and I think Bobby Petrino is in a step up from Sam Pittman. Honestly, I think it'd be shrewd to give him a chance to be the head coach for a couple of years. Like I would be fascinating to see what he does with that. It's not going to happen. They're going to hire who knows who they're going to hire. But when you look at college football right now, across the board, there isn't an elite team. It's about, like you said, culturally, and even more than culturally. Like Georgia's been there before. You know what I mean? Like they're in Sanford Stadium. They've only lost 1 game or 2 games in 5 years or something crazy at Sanford Stadium. Look, man, it was very simple. You didn't get the 4th down stop, and your defense couldn't stop anybody. So Georgia beat you. At the end of the day, that was a coin flip game, just like we said it was going to be. I don't think it has to do with the culture of Georgia that they won. It's because Ole Miss was so bad defensively. But if you let them line up again and spot the ball, who's to say Ole Miss doesn't have a defensive effort more akin to Tulane and LSU and stuff like that, because they were able to make the adjustment. They got exposed a little bit against Georgia, but they're still the same playoff team today, or at least.
But don't you think mentality matters in that scenario? Like for a team like Ole Miss, it felt like, oh my God, we got them. Like, but you were still kind of, it's like you're on the road, you're sort of nervous. It's like, oh, Lane needs this. It's a big win. It's almost a mentality thing. You just said it. It's like they've been there before. And for Georgia, that's what Kirby said. He's like, we're hard to kill at the end of the game. He's like, because we don't go down easy, and that's a mentality thing that I don't know exists on the Ole Miss sideline. Truth be told, I don't know if it does, because they don't consistently beat top ranked teams, especially on the road. They just don't do it. They haven't done it under Lane Kiffin.
Kiffin is 1-10 at Ole Miss against AP top 25 teams in true road games. You knew you weren't going to be able to stop them. Lane said it. Hey, we knew we had to keep scoring, and we didn't. Yeah. The end. It's not because Georgia's big bad Georgia. Ole Miss and Georgia aren't the same programs, but as far as the product they're putting on the field, they're closer than they've ever been before on a Saturday to Saturday basis, and that applies for quite literally every other college football program in America. Vanderbilt is now on an even playing field as LSU.
The number 10 team in the country. Put some respect on the Commodores, baby. All right, let's put that to bed. Obviously, Georgia with Gunnar Stockton at the helm, as I mentioned, quite like insane the season he's having, and everybody.
And with an uninspiring Heisman race, like of course talk about Gunnar Stockton.
Well, I don't think anybody's touching Ty Simpson. But what is funny to me was the whole like they lost Carson Beck, and now Gunnar Stockton looks better. His numbers are better, and I mean Carson Beck, what a dud. And we'll get to that here in a second, but. So obviously that was a crazy one. I want to talk about Ty Simpson for a second, Ben, because I mean we've been singing his praises for the last few weeks. This guy, man, he's just doing everything right, bro. I mean, I can't find a flaw in this guy's game right now. Okay, I haven't watched every single Alabama snap, so someone may be able to call me out on that, but I've watched a lot. And he's now beaten Georgia, Vandy, Mizzou, and Tennessee 4 straight games. Also, shout out to our guy, Kalen DeBoer. The Black Hoodie continues to do its magic. 19-3 against AP-ranked teams now in his career.
Black Hoodie.
The Black Hoodie Assassin, man. That's what I call him. The silent assassin.
Kalen
Dude,
DeBoer.
It's so funny, man, coming into the season, how, like, the questions about Alabama and what's Ty Simpson going to do and how's he going to, rank up to who everybody had, hyped, the Cade Klubniks and the Garrett Nussmeyers and the Arch Mannings. And this dude, man, what a stud. Waited his turn at Alabama, didn't transfer, and finally got put in that position and just absolutely shining, man. I love to see stories like that. He's such a leader, too. Like, you watch some of those behind-the-scenes clips that Alabama football posts. He's an absolute leader. The way he moves in the pocket, the way he avoids the rush, his arm. I mean, I can't stop gushing over this guy, Ben. He is the Heisman frontrunner to me. I know some people think it's Fernando Mendoza, who, shout out to him. What a remarkable season he's having. But to me, from a pure skill standpoint and somebody that looks like a Heisman winner, it's Ty Simpson right now.
100%. I agree with you. He's the far and away number one, the leading candidate. It could change quite literally in a weekend, but so far no one is checking more boxes, and that's what's been something we've talked about for a long time. It's why everybody was so high on Garrett Nussmeier coming into the year, because you didn't know who that quarterback was going to be. And as far as traits, he checked the most boxes, and no one has been more unimpressive for me than Garrett Nussmeier. What he did against Vanderbilt, he has no running game. And that's not the LSU of old in terms of talent, but man, I don't see anything that really excites you. There's everything about Ty Simpson that excites you. This is a player that makes sense in terms of being an emerging quarterback at Alabama, a traditional program that everybody knows, known for putting out NFL draft talent. This is a player that could skyrocket in terms of not only his Heisman candidacy and leading a national championship contender, but also as QB1 for an NFL draft. That could very well happen. But I think it's less about – I'm not trying to take anything away from Ty Simpson. I just still think it's a little bit still a smaller sample size. Let's extrapolate that over the rest. He's got 15 games to play potentially, you know what I mean? Let's see how he handles that. He's going to face adversity. A book's going to go out on him in some way. Somebody's going to make it hard. But it speaks really a lot to what this college football culture has been starved for this year. Star power at quarterback. They tried to crown Arch. They tried to crown Garrett Nussmeier. They tried to crown Carson Beck. Sudu tried to crown Carson Beck. And then Carson Beck and Miami go to Louisville, and he throws 4 picks, and they lose.
Absolute betrayal from Carson Beck, man. Just absolute
he let you down.
Betrayal.
So Ty Simpson, I call him Tyson. Ty Simpson is benefiting from that, but I also don't want to take away from the good work that he's done so far as a starter, because you're right, man. And you're seeing this a lot more at schools, even though everyone's like, oh, it's just a transfer. Well, a lot of these transfers end up staying 2-3 years. Like Ole Miss's left tackle, Diego Pounds, is in his second year after blocking the blind side for Drake May at North Carolina, who's now dominating for the Patriots in year 2. It's just a different way to go about your classification or your years spent in college. That's why I think the 5-for-5 rule, if they ever did that and just eliminated redshirts, you got 5 years to play 5, that would solve a lot of issues and a lot of this stuff. But like Ty Simpson is rare, even though these transfers are staying more than just 1 year these days. They're not just hired guns. Ty Simpson is a rare guy who was patient. You deserve all the plaudits in the world. Now, can you finish it off? Because right now, if you had to pick from the barrel of good enough, man, it's hard not to pick Alabama right now.
18 touchdowns, 1 interception, over 70% completion percentage, almost 2,000 passing yards. He is that dude, man. And look, he's got South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, and Auburn. You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. The rough part of the schedule was Georgia, Vandy, Mizzou, Tennessee. 5, 16, 14, and 11. Won them all and looked great in all of those games. So shout out to Ty Simpson, man. You're absolute freaking rock star. Love watching you play football.
You know, it'd be the most 2025 result ever, though.
What's
if
that?
they lost to Auburn.
I mean, come on, that's always in the realm of possibility. You know that.
But like South Carolina looks terrible, and I think Shane Beamer's going to go to Virginia Tech. But even still, like another 2025 result would be, oh yeah, of course Lenore Sellers and South Carolina who sucked all year, but they were preseason darling.
They beat somebody every year. This is what I was trying to say last week. Obviously,
one time.
They got taken care of last weekend, but they always beat somebody they're not supposed to. Well, a lot of talk about NIL and coaching changes on this show today, and it's a part of a larger, I guess, theme in this modern era of college football. And no one better to talk about that than a good friend of mine, a friend's son, actually. It's so funny. I met this kid when he was like a middle schooler, and now he's got his own book out. He's got his own media company. We want to welcome onto the show Nick Douglas. Nick, what's up, baby? How are you doing?
Sudu, Ben, thank you for having me on. It's great to be with you guys. This is the start of what's going to be an amazing week, and no better way to start it with you guys. So talking about college football.
Of course, man. And obviously, you know, you've been a busy guy. You're what, a senior now at Ole Miss?
Yes.
You're a senior now at Ole Miss.
So I'm a senior.
And you've managed to create an initiative that works directly with college athletes. You started your own media company. You guys are broadcasting from like different college football games on iHeartRadio, I believe, every week. And now you've got a book out that I think you wrote with your uncle, right? Where did our game go?
Here, I can actually pull it for you right here.
That's awesome, man.
This is it right here, 130 pages. And want to give a big credit to Dean. Dean pulled a lot of weight to make this happen. Quick backstory on this. I covered the University of Washington for their 2023 season when they went all the way to the national title. And I just kind of saw how much this meant to the Pac-12 fans and how much this meant to so many people that the Pac-12 was falling apart. I mean, we were not Pac-12 guys, obviously. We're SEC guys. And so to get that dose of new culture was fascinating. I just saw how much that meant. And I thought there was an incredible story to tell. But as we sort of put the fishnet across the ocean floor, what we came across was much bigger than just the Pac-12 ending. And there was a greater theme and a greater story that was there. And so we wanted to find a way to do it the right way, do it in a concise way. Obviously, this is not that big because we wanted to tell the full story with just the meat and all of its primary source backed. So
yeah, it's from, you know, obviously I just ordered the book after we spoke about it this weekend on the sideline. So it should be coming in. Just got an Amazon order of it. But obviously, this is going into kind of behind the scenes of this new era of college football, right? Kind of when the traditions of college football collides with big business interests and ambition and, you know, the changing landscape of the sport. And it's something Ben and I talk about every week. I mean, we talk about parity and coaching changes and how, you know, we talk like today, we talked about it earlier on this podcast, Mike Norvell. I mean, at Florida State's like, we're not going to fire him in the middle of the season. We're going to wait to see what happens. And that maybe wouldn't have been the case for a school like Florida State just 3, 4, 5 years ago, but you have to consider NIL money. You have to consider transfer portal stuff. So just kind of give me the background of this book because it really tackles this new era of college football. And you guys do focus a lot on how Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC changed a lot of what is happening right now, but also, like you mentioned, a deep dive into what happens when big business interests ruins traditions like a Pac-12, like a traditional conference, a storied conference like the Pac-12.
Yeah, so really what was fascinating about this whole process was the same few things kept getting brought up. Everybody brings up NIL, everybody brings up the portal, everybody brings up the leveling of the playing field, but there were certain things that we found were not getting the right amount of attention. So nobody ever talks about the transfer portal in 2018 becoming, you know, the genesis of the transfer portal. Everyone talks about it in 2022 and 2023 and beyond, when it became this whole new level of the offseason. Another thing that doesn't get talked about enough is COVID. The fact of the matter is, during COVID, that expedited everything. That expedited the SEC's trajectory to the top. That expedited the Big Ten's wild polarity, where you've got Rutgers and Maryland that are the bottom feeders, and you've got Ohio State and Michigan and formerly Penn State that were at the top. And then the 8 through 18 of the Big Ten, I think, barely competes to be a Power 4 conference in and of itself. And then you've got the Big 12 and the ACC that are sort of in that same realm, where there's a threat to their existence, but they're also a power conference, and every now and then you'll have an 11-1 team that's relevant. And so COVID really put a lot of that on the fast track. And it really opened up the aperture to say, okay, this landscape is going to shift a lot. Same thing with the NIL piece. I don't think the NIL happens in 2021 in July if there's no COVID. So that's something we really dive into, is what were the ramifications of COVID and how the SEC handled it. 10-game conference schedule, limited fans, increasing based on the geographic region, versus the Pac-12 and even the Big Ten, who initially just canceled their entire seasons. So we really dive into getting closure and getting a full understanding as to why things are the way they are, but why they were the way they were, and who's to blame, how this got set up, why are we here now, where did this all start, and so on. So
something that's interesting for me about the business of college football, and you mentioned it there in regards to the NIL transfer portal, and why we've talked about Lane Kiffin today, we'll keep talking about Lane Kiffin today, obviously is a big story, is I've talked about this in regards to 2020, the timeline of how the NIL transfer portal kind of era came into being there, Nick. And in 2020, Lane was progressive, man. I mean, he was out in front of it before everybody else was. I mean, this was a guy that was going to Canada, talking to Tavius Robinson and Dean Leonard. Tavius Robinson still in the NFL, playing for the Baltimore Ravens. Dean Leonard is still on the roster for the Chargers, I believe. So, while all of this new was happening and this shift was happening in college football, I think it's notable, and why Lane is kind of where he is that he was the most upfront and out and honest coach about the changing landscape and getting out in front of it. And that's why you've seen kind of Lane. I mean, that's talked about, the Portal King stuff, but really it's more than that. It's a progressive way of thinking about roster construction, just like it's the analytics base to go about it with, when he's making decisions in game. I mean, Lane's always kind of been out at the forefront, and that's exactly what you saw in this NIL era too. Absolutely.
And you see now, we talked about Florida State, and we're talking about the coaching carousel as a whole. That is entirely predicated off of your NIL. I mean, I think if you would have said 7 years ago that the most coveted jobs in the country would be in Texas, not in Alabama, not in Florida, not anywhere else, but that Texas would have the most resources and that the University of Texas would be one of the best jobs in the country, I don't think you would have had unanimous support in that. I mean, that was a Big 12 powerhouse traditionally, and that was seen as a good job, a strong job. But if you put it next to Tennessee, I think in 2018, there's no question that Tennessee's probably a better job. Whereas now, you look at the resources of Texas, they lap almost everybody in the country. And so it's just fascinating how, and we dive into this as well, how prominent dollars have really become, and how schools like Ole Miss can continue to compete, and how schools like Vanderbilt have been able to continue to compete. And where do you draw the line between we have enough resources versus we have a winning culture and a winning tradition? Is there leverage there? Who holds the leverage? Those kinds of things, we really dive into specific examples of how that gets highlighted and where those are. So,
one of the touchier parts of this entire discussion is the balance between the right of the players to make money off their likeness, but also the fact of traditions in college football, the product that we love kind of eroding, right? And trying to find a balance between the two of, I think most people in 2025 agree that these players should be making money off of their name, image, and likeness, and for their ability to raise so much money for these programs, they should definitely be getting a piece of that pie. But we also obviously want to keep the traditions that makes this sport one of the best ones in the world, in my opinion. And so someone might see the title of your book and go, oh, well, are you against paying the players? And we know that's not true, Nick. I mean, you have personal relationships with so many players across the country, obviously. But if you were kind of pitching this book to somebody, how would you kind of pitch it to them, and why should they read it? Like, what will this bring to you if you're a college football fan?
Absolutely. So whether you're high or low on all the different changes, all the conference realignment, all the paying of players, all the portal movement, everyone's asking the same question, which is, where did our game go? So agents are loving this. Players are loving this. Coaches, to some extent, probably love this as well because they can build a new roster every year. So
they certainly don't love the schedule, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, that one portal period now certainly helps, right?
Yes.
Well, you think so, but that's in the middle of the friggin' playoffs, man. It's like the NCAA can't get out of its own way, that broken bureaucratic nonsense of an institution.
Yeah, they've got their hands full, and luckily it's good to see, and we talk about this as well. There will be a period where a lot of this gets sort of corralled and figured out. I think it's tough to put the toothpaste back in the tube on a lot of this. But ultimately, that's what we'll see it, and we do provide a breakdown on both the positive and the negative of what's going on. We try to give it in a very objective way. So this is not and we open with this. This is not some memoir of, oh, the game was so great and now it's eroding every year. But this is also not, this is what we needed for so long, and these are the players that could have benefited from this. It's much more, let's break down why things are the way they are, where we see them going, the positive, the negative, the industries created, and ultimately how we got to where we are today. So,
well, I think where we got to today is that the NCAA and the power brokers there in Indianapolis desperately wanted to cling to whatever power they thought they had, and were not proactive, but instead regressive and reactive to changes in the sport. And now that it's blown up, it's never mattered less. The NCAA is what I'm talking about. And yet you're still getting these arbitrary rulings and stuff like that. I mean, if we're really thinking big picture about where college football goes, I don't know if it happens, when it happens, if I'll even be alive to see it. But a commissioner and a structure built just like the NFL, you're barreling towards it. Because what this is you're right, it's big business. And it's never been more laid bare than it is now. And that's why if you're an Ole Miss fan worried about Lane Kiffin today, or if you're a Florida fan thinking you're going to go get Lane Kiffin today, the parameters you grew up in and what you remember about the sport don't exist anymore. You see it all this time now. It's like, oh, well, Florida's a blue blood level job. Lane, come on over and you'll really get what you needed. Dude, they've been paying more than you have for a coach for years. You're on your fifth coach since Urban Meyer stepped away in 2010. There's a reason why you are what you are. Meanwhile, uniformity in a smaller place, but still a place with resources that are equal to yours because it's all the same. You just got to be smart with your money. And Ole Miss has been smarter than Florida. Lane, it makes it such a different conversation than, of course, Lane's living for the, quote, bigger job in Florida, like Tommy Tuberville left for Auburn, because bigger jobs don't exist anymore.
Absolutely. And I think what you're seeing across the country is when a school finds a coach and when a coach finds a school and there's synergy there, I would argue it's very difficult now to enter a new situation, even with your resources, even with your previous staff, and garner momentum early, garner momentum from your donor base, garner momentum from your fans. You're seeing examples of where it's worked. Curt Cignetti, 17-2 in 2 seasons. He deserved every dollar that he's going to get. I don't know how Indiana's going to pay for it, but they're committed to trying to find a way to get him the resources he needs. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed that contract last week. Then you look at Kalen DeBoer. Is the expectation too high? I think yes. I think he's 6-1 now. He was 9-3 last year. So there was an argument for a minute there that maybe he jumped ship too early on Washington, and maybe he was regretting that move. But then you also see Bill Belichick, where, once again, the dollars are pledged, the school's behind it, all the resources are there, and it's an absolute flop. So there's a serious risk that is run once you ruin continuity. And I think what Lane has at Ole Miss is continuity. Whether he thinks that leap is better at some other location, it remains to be seen. But you're absolutely right in that he has a consistent winner at Ole Miss. He's been the architect for that. There's an argument to be made that he's a top 2, top 3, definitely top 3 coach of all time at the program. And so you're right. It's not as assumed, this job is much better than this job. When in reality, it's a level playing field so long as he has the resources.
Yeah. No doubt. And I want to kind of go back to what Ben was saying with the NCAA. And I have never been one to shy away from criticizing them. I mean, it has been one of the worst institutions, in my opinion, in our country. I mean, think of all the great institutions and businesses we have, especially in regard to the big sports of college basketball and college football. And this goes far as back as, you remember Mark Emmert saying something along the lines of, like, if players get paid, then I won't be in this job anymore. This is going to be death of college athletics.
And guess where he is? Still sitting in his chair making his millions. Shut the hell up.
And, well, I know he stepped down. I don't know what his role now is, but
whatever.
He did step down from the NCAA eventually. But my point is, it felt like, Ben said they weren't proactive, they were reactive. To a degree, I think they were almost saboteurs to a degree of, you
saboteurs.
Want... Yeah, you like that one, huh? You like that word.
That one.
Yeah, Nick, you like that word, huh? ACT? No. But you know what I mean? Like, I do think to a degree they said, you want players to get paid? Cool. No guardrails. We're not going to put forth any kind of legislation through our bodies. We're not going to regulate anything. The NCAA, who would come in and tell a program, we're stripping away all your resources, the same one that gave the death penalty to SMU, the same one that obviously,
the modern day death penalty to Ole Miss.
Yeah, modern day death penalty for a kid sleeping on a couch and his mom's electric bills being paid. That NCAA said no guardrails, no nothing. And to me, that comes off as, we don't want these guys to be paid. Y'all do. The ADs, the coaches that are advocating for this, you deal with it. We're not going to police this whatsoever. And we're doing this on purpose so we can say, we told you so. And I think that's really what happened. Because think about it. They did not attempt to do anything while this was going on. It was a free-for-all until this past July, and even now, the whole House versus NCAA settlement, all that's up in the air, right? There's potential litigation involved. There's Title IX stuff involved. We don't even know if it's going to look like that, and I don't think it'll be the final iteration of whatever's going to, like Ben said, be the ultimate thing, which is, I do believe, ultimately will have to be an NFL-style setup. But the NCAA 100% bears the responsibility of the game we're talking about eroding and kind of the premises of your book, Nick.
Yes, and it gets a lot of attention, just how this whole situation got managed. And we go back to the 1984 lawsuit, Oklahoma, where the rights were managed by media rights were managed by the NCAA from 1952 to 1984. So we talked
in 1990, whatever it was, Ole Miss, a part of their punishment in the 90s under Billy Dog Brewer was what? A bowl ban.
Bowl ban.
Didn't they have TV bans back then?
Yep,
Wasn't that a thing?
They did. Yep. You were only granted a handful of national TV games. And so we just dive into the whole rights structure of things, because that plays a great deal into conference realignment. And a lot of the premise of this whole book is, let's go back. Let's get to the root of how things get done in the sport now. Let's go back to where this foundation got laid, why the NCAA was so bureaucratic for so long. We go into the establishment of the NCAA, which happened in 1910. We start back with the forward pass. So we sort of set the scene to start the book, and then we dive into, okay, here is where the NCAA got founded. Here is where football almost got banned. Here is where the sport changed through a multitude of world events. We dive into World War II. We dive into the Spanish flu. We dive into World War I. We talk through all kinds of different major events that directly affected the game and how the game was organized outside of the white lines. The game inside the white's the best it's ever been. Talent's high, parity is high. We love that.
Agreed.
But the second you are not in the arena at 2:30 on a Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, it's just this massive, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster, an unmitigated disaster. And so why are we at this point? Why are media rights, why is CBS and ESPN dictating who plays who? I mean, we're all pawns in the scheme here, trying to figure out, should this team play in this conference? And, well, if the best teams in this conference join that conference, then maybe this would look much better. And you hear, all kinds of different names floated around on who might be next and what the next wave of realignment would look like. But all that to say, this was laid for decades and decades and decades. The reason the game is the way it is, the reason the NCAA is the way it is, the reason media rights are the way it is, people don't know that history. And that's a lot of what we begin to uncover in this book is this is the history behind how this got to be the way that it is, why certain people are in charge of certain things, and ultimately how that all manifested itself through a lack of leadership in a lot of ways, poor leadership in a lot of ways, and then back-to-back bad and poor leaders. That's something you see across the board.
No doubt, Nick.
Know what this sounds like to me, Sue?
What's that?
Nick, you're raging against the machine in book form, man. Let's go. Play some
He is.
Bulls on parade behind my guy, man. Anti-bureaucracy, it ruins everything, and it's tried to ruin college football. The difference is the fan base of college football won't let it die completely. And I cite specifically the Washington State fans that travel to that game. That's a school that has every reason to take their ball and go home and say, man, screw this. The powers that be want to take us out. We don't matter. They show up and they give a shit. And, they're in the Pac too. It's funny, Lane kind of quoted or set it up like, well, this is the top team in the Pac-12, which is like, come on, dude. I mean, there are two teams, which is funny, but also like it's a sad state of affairs. And yet Washington State not only comes in and competes with Ole Miss, but their fans. It felt like the spirit of the thing again. And that's kind of what you're talking about, recapturing the spirit, because the bureaucracy and the stuffy old men in suits that just want to line their pockets, they've done everything they can to protect the country club. Meanwhile, college football fans just want to enjoy their Saturdays and talk shit about their boys compared to the other boys.
Yeah, and obviously, Wazoo, you mentioned Wazoo. Wazoo's always been that way. I'm thinking about it. Every single college game day, there was a Wazoo flag. I mean,
that's right. I met those guys in Athens this weekend.
Yeah, 100%,
and they said
man.
Great things about being at Ole Miss. They said you guys really took care of us.
That seemed like a great marriage between the two. What an unlikely scenario of Washington State fans coming to Oxford and just being like, God, we're very alike somehow.
But that's like college football, how college football used to be, man. Like, you're meeting new people from different walks of life. They're just coming in here for a unique experience, and it's the perfect place because Ole Miss is going to be the most welcoming place. They're going to invite you to their tents and give you their chicken tenders.
Yep.
So, like, it was the perfect blend of it. But for me, it was more of a reminder of what has been or what is we are losing if we continue to allow the bureaucracy and the machine to dictate things. So keep fighting a good fight, my friend.
So, Ben, I'm going to read you a little quick bit from our dedication at the very front of our book, because your comments align almost perfectly with it.
Let's go.
Just a small piece of it. We would like to dedicate this book to the fans, all of you who have carried this great sport through every era, especially to the fans of the Pac-12 who have watched more than just games, but watched a chapter of college football slowly close. College football was never built by television executives or contract lawyers. It was built by the people who kept showing up, in sun and rain, in heartbreak and in hope. It was built by student sections packed before kickoff, by generations who made Saturdays into tradition, and of course, by those who tuned into games all across the country each and every Saturday. We are all fans of the game, and the game matters because we care about it.
Yep. That's exactly right. And as long as there are people that really give a crap about it, really care about it, and it's the power of the people, man. It's a story old as time, bro. Power over bureaucracy, power of people over bureaucracy. We'll continue to preserve this game we love, but there's no doubt that it's being tested to its limits, and it has nothing to do with players getting paid. I've been wanting players to get paid as long as I can remember talking about the conversation. They deserve to be paid. I mean, for the longest, the NCAA was capitalizing on an unpaid labor force, and now that they have to all negotiate or collectively bargain without calling it collective bargaining, everybody's just trying to get their nut while ensuring that the other one doesn't get as much as they do. When the bottom line is everything needs to be fair and equitable and on the level playing field, just like the product on the field to its benefit is now in the NIL era, where anybody can step up and win games, because that's a beautiful part of it, man. Parity reigns. The unfortunate part of it is that the toothpaste is so far out of the tube, I don't know how you get it back in.
Yeah. No doubt about it, man. Nick, I'm really excited to read the book, man. This is right up my alley, and Ben and I are both really excited to check it out. But before we let you go, dude, just kind of tell us everything else you're involved with, man. You got a crazy entrepreneurial spirit, man, for your age. And a little background. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I met Nick when he was, what were you, maybe like 12 years old, 13 years old?
How old were you? You were like 22 when you started?
I was fresh out of college. Yeah, I was maybe 21. And so my first job out of college was in Memphis at WMC, the NBC.
I was probably in middle school then.
Middle school, and Nick's dad.
Don't worry, Sudu was sliding into my DMs in high school when I was, doing the flagship with Stephen Godfrey. So I feel like it's three generations of like
three generations.
Yeah. It kind of is, and his dad is just a legendary anchor in Memphis, very well known, Andrew Douglas. And of course, your uncle's like a fixture of Ole Miss athletics. It's just like the Douglas. Now, your dad's truly a Gator, but I'll give him a pass because he's got a lot of Ole Miss connections, and he's in the Grove quite a bit.
What is Dad saying about Lane in Florida right now? Come on.
So I'm happy to reveal the text exchange that he and I have been going through for the last several weeks. It's been a tale of. I believe there's some reverse psychology going on here because he saw the E60 and he drank the Kool-Aid. He's like, man, why would he leave? What would he do? Like Florida, there's too much turnover, and he's got the setup. He had the consistent top ranked team. Now he's got a consistent top 10 team. Pretty soon he'll have a consistent top 5 team. Why would he blow this up? And I'm sitting there like, listen, I've been let down plenty of times as a supporter of Ole Miss. I have my trust in Keith Carter, have my trust in the Chancellor. They do an incredible job running this place. They've done it for 6 years, and they've absolutely crushed it. And so whether there's a contract that's re-signed, whether there is a new coach in place, I put my trust in those two. So however it looks, whatever it's structured as, I think Ole Miss is going to be just fine so long as those two are running the show.
Well said. You completely avoided the question, but well said.
Hey, this kid's going to be a great politician one day. Maybe he'll run the NCAA. Maybe Nick Douglas is who we need in charge of the NCAA. But, Nick, once again, really appreciate it. Obviously, man, you're crushing it right now, and just can't wait to keep seeing you kill it, man. Appreciate you coming on the show. Absolutely. Look forward to keeping you guys apprised of what's going on. I've got the Elite Media Network that we're going to be in Ole Miss for the Florida Ole Miss game. On the topic of Florida Ole Miss, we will be in the booth calling that game nationally across TuneIn and iHeart, as well as on right now over 50 affiliates across the country. We'll be at Michigan State, Michigan this week. We were at Missouri Auburn the week before, so we've got a pretty loaded slate, and we're only going to expand and continue that programming. So very excited to keep you guys apprised of that. And we've got a game of the week right now, so we've got all kinds of different matchups. We had Miami, Florida State. We had Oklahoma, Texas. All exclusive national radio rights. So looking forward to continuing to move that forward, continuing to promote the book, all kinds of different media, sports, business endeavors, all the above. Let's keep it all rolling. So
listen to my guy. Like, hold up, dude.
He's a bright kid, Ben. I'm trying to tell you, man. This kid's got it together.
You know how hard it was to pull my big butt out of bed just to come do this with Sudu in the morning. Nick's over there talking about I got 50 different radio rights. Keep doing your thing, young buck. You're doing great work. And if you ever are hiring, just holler at me and Sudu.
Sounds good. What a crazy turn of events that would be.
Yeah, I'd come work for you in a heartbeat, Nick. You know that.
We'd have a great time. I don't know how HR would feel about some of the conversations the three of us would have, but the good thing is I'd be the head of our HR department, so I don't have any.
Okay.
Well, then I think I'd have a little leeway. You know what I mean?
I was going to say I don't think you got to worry about me, but sometimes Ben, he's never going to be. It's never going to be something crazy, but sometimes you go
You can't say that. You can't. But yet he did.
Loose cannon.
Hey, I was the one that had a principal when I was 16 tell me that I was going to be an HR nightmare, to which I responded, "What is HR?" And she said, "Oh, you'll find out." And I was like, "Okay, well."
You know what that means? That this person saw very early what is being proven out to be true. Raging against the machine. HR is just the machine, man. It's just the machine. I'm just saying. Pull me into an office and tell me all the things I'm saying wrong. Hold up. So you keep doing your thing, Nick, man. You're doing great work, dude. I can't wait to read the book.
Absolutely, Ben. Sudu, thank you, man. And
of course, my guy.
Let's all be in touch.
Absolutely, man. We sure will. Take care, buddy. Thank you.
Alrighty. See y'all.
All right, let's talk about Miami a little bit. Obviously, you know how I feel about Miami. I said the way that they play physically, the way they block, the way they run the football, the weapons they have reminds me of those elite Georgia teams from Kirby Smart's kind of tenure between 2021 to 2023.
We all don't bat 1,000, Sudu.
I still agree. The one miss was the actual Georgia player, Carson Beck. Everybody else showed up. Malachi Toney threw a freaking touchdown. He had more touchdowns than Carson Beck. I don't think he's ever going to get back into 2023 form. I really thought after watching him early in the season that, hey, he's back to 2023 form. 4 interceptions. The first one, he did throw into triple coverage, but the linebacker made a hell of a play. After
triple coverage is triple coverage, Sue.
It is. But, dude, I mean, you're talking about Malachi Toney. You kind of throw that ball. You let your receiver make the play. You just got to give credit. This is me giving credit to Louisville's linebacker because it was a hell of a play. After that, it was atrocious. The game-sealing interception. I mean, Miami still had a chance to win in the end. Beck threw it. It was a bad interception. After the game, said the receiver ran the wrong route. We called it a great play. So he threw his receiver under the bus as a leader. Just an all-around terrible night from him between on the field and as a leader. I get it. He might have run the wrong route. That's not how you handle that situation. We gave Shedeur Sanders a lot of heat for throwing his lineman under the bus a year ago, and I think Carson Beck deserves the same amount of heat for that move. I just thought that was an awful move. I think that shows you right there what you were saying, and your point is right. They are beatable. They are 100% beatable. And obviously, we knew that in the playoff they could be, but in the regular season, they are beatable. And I said it would be Mario Cristobal's ineptitude, but turns out the answer was right in front of my face the whole time. It was Carson Beck. And I just put too much trust into Carson Beck. I mean, you can't trust him. I know it's just one game, and shout out Jeff Brom, by the way. His teams, dating back to Purdue, 4-2 against opponents in the top 5. Not top 10, not ranked, top 5. Jeff Brom is a top 5 team killer. I don't want to play Jeff Brom if Ole Miss is ever in the top 5 because this man, that's what he does. And I mean, think of how creative Jeff Brom was, man. They were running multi-quarterback sets. His defense played frickin' lights out, man. Like, shout out to Louisville, dude. They should honestly probably only have that one loss. The Virginia game was pretty close. But that's a team that if they sneak into the playoff, you got to wonder with Brom's record, they can beat some people. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I don't want to make this a ton about Miami because everybody that listens to the podcast knows how I feel about Miami, and I feel very betrayed by Carson Beck.
That's what
today.
I was about to say. This is a scorned lover right here, man.
Yeah, I feel very betrayed. A guy that I personally have been around and interviewed, and as always, I thought did right by me and tried to do right by him when we covered him, and was rooting for him, man, after that gruesome injury and everything and the transfer, and just was like, man, what the hell were you doing? Just a really bad game.
It's just these results are it shows you what we've been talking about here. Okay, yeah. Everyone's saying, well, Georgia Tech is number 7 in the country. Number 7 in the country. Yeah. Beat up on Duke. LSU loses to number 10 now, Vanderbilt. 31-24.
Called it last weekend. I said it last week.
And of all the games for me I've been with Vanderbilt all year.
That was your game to pick, brother. I was surprised when you going into Nashville, this LSU team, there was no way in hell that they were going to win, dude.
And they were playing from behind even when it was tied. I mean, it was just so bad to watch that team. And Diego Pavia pops out the Heisman pose. Heck yeah. Why not Diego Pavia? He can be a little corny with the ski mask, but I love it. Vanderbilt's
I think the Bama game badly hurt his chances of any sort of Heisman consideration. I think by the end of the year, if he keeps balling, he'll probably get votes or something. But
Arizona State, which lost to Mississippi State, beat Texas Tech.
How about
Texas A&M had to hang on to beat Arkansas. Yeah. Washington State, our Cougs, came within 2 of upsetting number 16 Virginia. Yeah. Right? I mean, Texas at number 22, preseason darling, Arch Manning.
Hey. What did I tell you about playing in Lexington, Kentucky, baby?
3 points.
Every year.
Kentucky. Game-winning field goal, was it? I mean, it was just bad.
Yeah. Alabama, shout out their defense because, man, like we talked about Arch's development. I don't want to make this about Arch because he's doing exactly what we were talking about. He's developing this season. We know he's not a Heisman contender, but good God, man, what that offensive line just every week looks worse and worse. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't protect Arch. Granted, Arch missed a bunch of throws. Like, I'm not absolving him of anything, but man, this is mighty Texas with all the money. What the hell? They can't block anyone.
Like, Missouri hangs on to beat Auburn in the fight in Hugh Freeze's, and the Auburn era for Hugh Freeze just feels like a circle in the drain. I mean, you look at what is happening, and it speaks to what we're saying. Enjoy the parity for what it is rather than, try to inject old things, old feelings, old biases, old prejudices about former teams or how we used to judge this stuff, even preseason rankings, all the considerations how it used to be. This is a completely different era in college football. Completely different era. We'll be talking about, BCS conversations and all that nonsense as a long forgotten time very soon. Like, we are the old people now. This is the new world. This is the new parity is absolutely reigning right now. And if you're a fan of a school that traditionally back in the old days, and I'm not going to name any names, but won at a level that was unprecedented because you got to be one of the haves. There are no haves anymore. They're all together. They're all haves. There's no have-nots if you don't want to be a have-not. All it costs is money. And that wasn't an opportunity. It wasn't an equitable and fair opportunity for everybody. There were a select few. And you're trying to judge things now based on that worldview. That worldview is dead. And if you want to keep living that, go for it. Meanwhile, if you're saying, Ben, who's your pick then right now of the playoff teams? Man, I'd love me some Georgia Tech and Hayes King. You know what I mean? Like, who would say these things in even 2016?
You kind of just need, honestly, what college football is showing you right now is like, honestly, just kind of need a gamer quarterback. Yeah. Like a guy who's just an absolute gamer who just finds ways. He doesn't even have to be elite, just finds ways. Chambliss, Pavia, Haynes King, even Gunnar Stockton. As we mentioned, he's not the perfect quarterback, but damn it, when he needs to win, he finds a way to win. And that's honestly like the only true elite quarterback, as we mentioned, is Ty Simpson. Fernando Mendoza is in that conversation. I guess you could put Dante Moore in there as well, but like, truthfully, the rest of these guys are just figuring it out. They're not perfect QBs. Like, they are not showing NFL traits necessarily all the time, but that's kind of what it's about. Ben, let's get into Week 9 matchups here. Got a lot of good ones this week, starting with Ole Miss at Oklahoma. Obviously, the Rebels, after that horrendous display of defense, now have to travel to Norman. On the bright side, Oklahoma's offense isn't what we thought it was going to look like maybe at this point of the year. At least you and me, we were very high on John Mateer early on. He comes back from the injury, doesn't look like himself. Obviously, they can't run the football that well. Their defense, though, is pretty solid. So you do have to face
one of the best in the nation.
No doubt. So 11 a.m. kicks, or I guess noon kick. Well, what is it? I guess it's 11 a.m. It's a central time for them. So,
always been tricky for Lane Kiffin coach teams.
Yeah, Ole Miss has it hard with those 11 a.m. kicks. I want to lean towards Ole Miss. I just don't have the same faith I did in Oklahoma as I did before. It doesn't feel like the same kind of environment that you were going to maybe walk into if they were a little better, had they won Red River rivalry or Mateer came back from the injury better. But, I mean, it is still a hostile environment. They get down in Norman. It's going to be hard. I do think that Ole Miss having just played in Sanford helps. I mean, for Trinidad, who played very well in his first road start in that environment, but now he gets to go into an environment in Norman, which will be rocking, but he just dealt with Sanford, where I don't think that'll be as much of a factor as we thought maybe it was going to be. I'm going to lean towards Ole Miss on this one. Maybe that's the homer in me, but it's going to have to be a shootout. But I do think that John Mateer is a little more limited than maybe what Georgia's offense did to Ole Miss's defense.
I'm saying Ole Miss loses this game just because I said that in the preseason, and I don't feel particularly good about where Ole Miss is defensively right now. Not a single stop against
I don't
Georgia.
either.
And yeah, John Mateer in Oklahoma's offense, I don't know. Like,
he's turnover prone, and that's really where I think it comes down to.
But Ole Miss doesn't get turnovers defensively.
They don't. But when a quarterback is desperate, maybe this is the game that you. Maybe this is the game you finally start sending Perkins in. And the note about Satarin Perkins too, I think, when I watched him against Georgia in person, I think a part of him not being the same Perkins from a year ago is they're asking him to do a lot this year to cover up for other deficiencies. Like, I do think that obviously he has to be a QB spy and he plays that role, but even against Georgia on run plays and stuff, I mean, he's running from one end of the field to the other end of the field to try to make a tackle. Like, he's having to do so much. And I maybe think that might be hamstringing Golding's ability to use him like he did last year, because I do think that there are deficiencies and it's like he's having to do more than he had to even a year ago. So hopefully there will be a game where we just get to see him rush the passer and get his sack numbers up. Maybe it's this one. Mateer is deadly on the ground, but maybe you finally just get in his face and say, run it on us. But I'm taking Ole Miss. Taking Ole Miss on that.
I'm taking Oklahoma. I don't know what the score is. And, like, look, last week I said to start the week 31-28 Georgia, and then I changed it to 34-27 Ole Miss by the end of the week. Like, these things can change. But just coming off of last week, because I've been saying like this, it's less about Oklahoma because that's a losable game. All games are losable games. They could lose to Mississippi State. They could lose to Florida. I mean, Florida beat Texas. You know, Texas almost got beat by Kentucky. Anybody can beat anybody. I think Ole Miss is going to lose at least one more game. But staring 10-2 in the face means they're a playoff team. And that's where, if you're Lane Kiffin, all of this rumor stuff? Are you going to let it be like 2022? Because you've got another opportunity to do the thing that you haven't done at Ole Miss, and last year was a failure when you went 9-3 with an historic defense and Jackson Dart quarterback. So if you fell short last year and this year you allow it to derail, because you can lose any of these games because your defense is playing in a really bad way right now. Right. Your defense is in a bad place, and
Florida they'll lose again. They're going to lose again. Yeah, I think I'm scared of a Florida. Honestly, I think like DJ Lag. State too. Yeah, Mississippi State, Florida. I think those games scare me. Who knows? Lenore Sellers could have a renaissance game against this defense. You know what I mean? So it's all within the realm of possibility.
Last year, one of the 3 of 5 10-win seasons for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. State was terrible. They've lost 14 straight SEC games. Jeff Lebby's 0 for 10. I keep waiting for them to get that one win because, like, it writes itself if it's Ole Miss. Of course they could win. They should have beaten Florida.
Yeah,
they were controlling Florida. Like Mississippi State is right there. They're just, they're not in the same breath right now as an Ole Miss or a Georgia or anything like that, but they're close enough to where they can get you. So yeah, Ole Miss has losable games. Yeah, I do too. I think, and that's what I'm saying. How do you not think that way right now? So it's less about Oklahoma. I'm picking Oklahoma just because I don't know. I think Ole Miss finishes 10-2. That's the real takeaway. They're going to lose one more game, in my opinion. But what that game is, I don't know. It could get worse though if Lane Kiffin allows this to be like 2022 with Auburn.
Yeah,
same no doubt about it. Because he can say it's not a distraction, and that's what he said. But I know for a fact it was a distraction in 2022 by the amount of people I talked to.
It's the coach
and
speak
this
aspect.
feels like that in a lot of ways, and it could spiral if you let it. And that's what Ole Miss fans really wanted to hear from Lane was just like, hey, man, me and Keith are working it out. We'll get it done. But he's not. He's never played it that way. Right. He's doing it exactly as he's been advised to do. I don't blame him at all. He's been consistent as gravity over 6 years at Ole Miss in that way. But that's where the red flags pop up to me because there's still losable games. It's not just Oklahoma, right. South Carolina. You're right. What if Lenore Sellers has his Lenore Sellers game, but it's against Ole Miss in the defense that didn't get one single stop, not one stop. Saturday in Georgia. That is not an exaggeration.
No, that defense is Swiss cheese. I mean, they're not doing anything this season worth a damn anyways. But anyways, all right.
10-2 gets you into the playoffs, and then next year this whole roster returns for next year, and you're back being a playoff contender again, maybe preseason top 5. That's great, but for the context of this year, and with all the backdrop of Florida, maybe LSU, other jobs coming open, you can't if you're Lane Kiffin allow a repeat of 2022. You lost 4 of your last 5 games when that team could have been the 4th 10-win team in your 5 years at Ole Miss, and you just cratered it.
That was a massive disappointment. All right, speaking of massive disappointments, Hugh Freeze's reign at Auburn, obviously. You know that obviously he survived another week. I mean, I don't know, maybe some point this week. I mean, we're recording this podcast on a Monday. Maybe news comes down that Freeze is gone, but as of right now, he is the head coach at Auburn. They have to travel to Fayetteville. I think Bobby Petrino gets Hugh. I think this is the undoing of Hugh Freeze right here. It's going to be losing to Arkansas in Fayetteville.
Wow. Yeah, I could totally see that happening.
Just Taylor Green goes off. Bobby Petrino schemes it up perfectly, and I think this is going to be Freeze's ultimate.
Are we going ahead and doing our upset picks then? I mean, that's not really an upset because Arkansas sucks too, but I could see Arkansas. I think State gets Texas this week.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I think State. I think
it's
Texas
totally doable.
In Starkville, I think they.
I'll say this: Texas's defense, the way it's playing right now, gives me a little more hope for them. So I think I'd still lean towards Texas. But yeah, obviously Texas's offense gives me. That's the thing, though. Like State's defense isn't good either, right? So you could see like Quintravion Wisner carry them and Arch just doing enough to win. I think that's what'll happen. But Texas's defense, in my opinion, carries them, and they don't lose to State. But Auburn's definitely going to lose to Arkansas, in my opinion. Okay,
buy or sell. Since we've both done hosting stuff before, all right, I got one for you. Buy or sell. Mississippi State. One of the two will happen. State will beat Texas, or LSU will beat Texas A&M. Buy or sell. Buy.
I'm buying State over Texas.
You're not doing. You're anti LSU now. I mean, you're out on LSU.
I've been out on LSU all year, man.
You have been.
I just was like, what is impressive about them? I just have never understood it. But No doubt. What do you think about Mizzou at Vandy? Does Mizzou get its first loss of the season in Nashville? I'm taking the Commodores.
I'm never, ever again picking against my guy, Diego Pavia. I learned my lesson.
You think you think the Vandy hype train is strong now? Just wait until they beat Drinkwitz and Mizzou and see what happens.
Now, what will be funny is if Mizzou goes in there and could very well happen, beat up on Vandy pretty good, and then Eli Drinkwitz takes the Florida job, and Gator fans have to accept what they are.
Okay. I'm still taking Pavia and the Tigers. A&M LSU, obviously, I'm taking A&M. It's in Death Valley. I don't know what time it is. I don't know if it's a night game.
6:30.
So it is a night game at Death Valley.
Of course it's a night game. It's Death Valley.
Hey, listen, it's hard to pick against LSU in a night game at Death Valley, and Texas A&M is due for a loss. I'll say this, man. I know they played Arkansas, and Marcel Reed looked really good because it was Arkansas's defense, which is also Swiss cheese. But I think I was waiting to see like a really dominant day from Marcel Reed, and I think I got that against Arkansas. Once again, like not a strong defense, but I'm going to say he carries that momentum into Death Valley, and A&M's defense is going to do enough, and I think with Mario Craver and the weapons they have and Reed, I think they take down LSU, and I think this will be Brian Kelly's undoing. Let me ask you this. Do you think Brian Kelly gets fired at LSU, or do you think Brian Kelly jumps ship before he gets fired at LSU?
I think he jumped ship because they just can't afford to fire him right now. I mean, if you ask my opinion, anybody that's motivated enough can do whatever the heck they want to do, but $60 million to $60 million. And, but for all intents and purposes, this Brian Kelly experiment at LSU is over. It was always a clunky fit. I think
Terrible.
Penn State could be a real option for him. I think that's one, if you're really asking from all the rumblings I've heard from people I talked to, sourcing, whether you think I'm good at what I do or dumber than a bag of dicks, one thing you need to know is that Brian Kelly at Penn State, that is something that is being considered and talked about from both ends of the spectrum. So in that way, I could totally see him leaving before getting fired. I don't think Brian Kelly's the kind to allow himself to get to the place where he knows he's going to get fired.
Upgrade over James Franklin, though, dude?
No.
I just don't think he is.
He's
like
just
that's
different.
Yeah, it's just that's why the whole firing. I understood that the shelf life for Franklin was done and the way he lost. Like the firing makes sense, but also like in this new era of college football we talk about, like I thought they should have just rode with him and just let it play out. But
you keep getting in the dance. You're just trying to be in the dance every year. That's
right.
it. Are you in the conversation? It's not about did you win 2 championships in 3 years? No, you dumbass. It's about did you get in? Are you in the conversation for the tournament? Because if you're in the conversation for the tournament every single year, and that's why James Franklin let me down so bad, like LSU or whoever let you down so bad this year, Miami let you down. It's because James, I defended how good of a coach James Franklin is in terms of his consistency. Does he have an issue winning the big games? Sure. But the same logic that you're applying to Lane Kiffin in Florida, you could apply to James Franklin and say, well, with our resources, unless you're saying you're just equal or the same as Penn State.
That point is actually so valid, Ben. Is like you talk about Franklin can't win the big game, so you don't want him to be your main candidate at Florida. Meanwhile, Lane Kiffin has never won the big game. His biggest win was Georgia last year, and what did they even do with that
nothing.
win?
They lost to Florida, and I'm sorry, Jackson Dart yesterday. That disastrous ending to their game, man. Jackson, that looked like the Florida game. I almost texted Sudu. Like, did you watch the end of the Giants game yesterday?
I missed pieces of it. I was out and about yesterday, but of course I saw it. Of course I went back and watched it.
He was making throws that looked like the Florida game, and that Florida game was an absolute bloody disaster, and it wasn't just his fault. It was Lane Kiffin's too. Remember, he started a now transfer wide receiver at Southern Miss and Micah Davis at running back in Gainesville in a playoff do-or-die matchup. So it's comical the way we think about these things. At the end of the day, I think, like I said, Lane's going to sign an extension, but more than that, James Franklin deserves way more credit than he gets because, man, we judge them we judge them with these like judgment sheets that don't even exist anymore, bro. But I want to tell you my final thing about this week's games. I'm picking 2 upsets because I am wearing my stupidity for picking against my guy, Diego Pavia. I'm picking 3 upsets this week. You ready?
Okay, let's get it.
Missouri over Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm picking against my guy because I betrayed you. I don't get to have you as my quarterback anymore. I've traded you to Sudu for Byron Brown. I failed you.
No, we're running a 2 QB set like Jeff Brom.
All right. I think Vanderbilt's going to beat Missouri, but if I could very well see, I think LSU's beating A&M, and I think State's beating Texas. Now, whether Missouri beats Vanderbilt, no, I think that's too rich. And my guy Diego Pavia, he's making me eat my crow this Monday on Game Runs Deep. So I'm not going to pick that one. I'm just saying it could 3 upsets for you because Vanderbilt's number 10 in the country. And y'all are trying to tell me college football needs to be judged on the old way of doing things?
Man, I
what
can't
are we
wait.
Talking about?
This is why I need Vandy to beat Missouri because I never thought I'd live to see Vanderbilt in the top 10. I can't wait to see them move into the top 5 or 6 if they beat Missouri,
Hell
man.
Yeah. Woody Woodenhofer, man, I want to get him on the pod. You know?
Dude, I mean, and then like Georgia Tech at 7, like it's just such a fun AP. Indiana at 2, man. College football is in the best shape it's been. There's so many issues, obviously, within college football, but when I look at the AP top 25 this week, it just excites me as a fan. I'm like, BYU's 11, Illinois ranked. Like, dude, come on. How can you not love this new era? USF at 18. I mean, it's insane, man. Okay, final game I want to talk about.
You remember like back in the day when you play NCAA football and you get into like year 2027. This is when like you played in 2014.
Yeah.
And like Middle Tennessee State would be ranked number 2 in the country. And you thought, man, I can't play this anymore. This is bull crap. Like that would never happen. Look at the top 25. Indiana's number 2. Vanderbilt's number 10. Judged against the old days, you're like, there's no, that is completely fantastical. Y'all, we're living in it, and it's great.
And the best part is you juxtapose it with like the teams in the bottom of the rankings of Michigan 25, Texas 22,
USC
LSU
unranked.
20, USC's not even ranked, and then there's Indiana, Georgia Tech, and Vandy in that top 10. Oh God, I love it. Okay, final matchup. We got to talk about our boy Jerry Neuheisel, the first of his name.
Jerry, first of his name, Neuheisel.
They win their 3rd straight. Obviously, UCLA's cooking. And shout out Tim Skipper. I had a lot of people come at me on TikTok and YouTube and say, hey, you guys aren't giving enough credit. And we did say we feel bad for Tim Skipper because Jerry Neuheisel's getting the credit. But damn it.
I said at the start, I said Tim Skipper's the interim head coach of UCLA. Yeah. And, like, he deserves all the credit. It sucks that he's getting outshined. But look at this offense under Jerry Neuheisel.
Exactly. Because, hey, look, when Tim Skipper was the interim and Tino Sansuri was there, you know what I mean? I get it. He's the one who put Jerry in that position, but that was also Tim Skipper. It was when Jerry started calling plays that things turned around for them. So that's why Jerry's getting the hype. He's a UCLA kid, born and bred. He played there, right? He's been there for 6 years or whatever. That's the excitement. It's about bottling that excitement and energy and keeping it there. That was me and Ben's point. Regardless, a huge test. They got to go into Bloomington to face the number 2 ranked Hoosiers. Is there any shot in hell, Ben, that our boy Jerry and Nico and UCLA can? Because granted, their win this weekend was not impressive at all. And Nico was kind of like injured at the end there. But is there just even an ounce of possibility that they can get Signetti and the Hoosiers?
Of course. With Jerry Neuheisel, the first of his name. Slayer of dragons, not the mother of dragons, the slayer of dragons. And this weekend with Kurt Signetti. I mean, think how ridiculous this sounds. First of all, the voice. But then the powerhouse that is Kirk Signetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. Oh, it's so great. No, they're not beating Indiana this weekend.
No shot.
No.
He would have to literally fly in on a dragon and burn down their team, I think, to win with this UCLA squad.
With that hair and with his lineage as a Targaryen, are you really saying that that's not a possibility?
Could be.
That's one. You're saying it's not one drop of dragon's blood possible? Of course it is. This father of dragons, or slayer of dragons, I think I said. This father of dragons is better. Jerry Neuheisel, Tim Skipper is the interim head coach at UCLA.
Shout out Tim Skipper for real, bro. Like, good, like awesome. You also deserve to be a head coach.
Yes.
It just makes more sense for UCLA. Okay, that's all we got. Is there anything that is grinding your gears today? And quick note for our fans who listen to the podcast on a week-to-week basis. Due to technical difficulties, we don't have a Bless Your Heart segment this week. I might still do one later in the week if you follow me on TikTok at Sudu TV.
Still kind of figure that out. I'll do it with you. Come on.
Yeah, maybe if our podcast software works correctly, we can make it happen. But we do apologize because we had a lot of plays and we were gonna honestly have to bless a lot of hearts on the Ole Miss defense. this week. But and some people might say that's why it's not working, but I'm dead serious. I've been trying to upload these videos to me and Ben's podcast software, and it's just not working. So do apologize for that. But once again, anything grinding your gears, or how you feeling? I guess we've kind of...
I feel like my gears have been grinded. I really hit on everything that was pressing, including especially the Lane Kiffin stuff with Florida.
Yeah.
And again, neither of us are saying that no chance in hell he's going to you Florida Gators. No one's saying that.
Yeah.
What we are saying is that the way you view this and the lens you view it through, either it's completely broken or it doesn't exist anymore. So thank you all for supporting this. It's been really cool to watch the impressions go up and up, and the response online, especially when y'all get very, very mad at us. That's really fun for me. Not because I relish your pain. It's just because it's like, I care that you care. That's awesome that you care, and that you care about this with stupid old me and wonderful Sudu is a blessing from God, and I'm thankful for it, and it's just been really fun. So game runs deep. As long as Sudu still is willing to call Ginger Shrek every week, game runs deep will run deepeth all year long. It don't have to be just football, even though it looks like football is year-round now. So even when we try to talk basketball, we'll probably talk an hour about
listen,
Lane Kiffin in
we're going to definitely get into basketball here soon. I mean, you got Bryce James at Arizona. Ole Miss just beat Houston in a close scrimmage, apparently. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff coming up with hoop season starting as well. But for now, we'll leave it with you guys. Week 9 is going to be exciting. We'll be back next week to break it all down. For Benny, I'm Sudu. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.